Could America's labor crisis really be solved with one simple solution? Senator J.D. Vance believes it can. In a fiery interview that's taken social media by storm, Vance dismantled the argument that undocumented immigrants are essential to our economy and offered a surprising fix to the migrant crisis. Today on the Fame Journey, we're unpacking his bold claims and the heated exchange that left a New York Times reporter speechless. J.D. Vance, the Ohio senator and now vice presidential candidate, has sparked intense debate over his proposed solution to the migrant crisis, a plan that many on both sides of the political spectrum have been quick to either praise or condemn. In an interview with the New York Times podcast host Lulu Garcia-Navarro, Vance argued that the U.S. economy doesn't need the estimated 2 million undocumented workers who enter the country annually. Instead, he said, the country could fill the gap by employing millions of American men who have dropped out of the labor force. This bold claim came as Garcia-Navarro questioned him on the economic impact of deporting undocumented immigrants, particularly in industries like construction, where roughly one-third of the workforce is Hispanic, and a significant proportion of that group is undocumented. Vance's response was unapologetic. He criticized the reliance on undocumented workers, claiming that big companies prefer to import cheap labor rather than pay Americans a livable wage. He pointed out that many of these jobs, which Americans are said to avoid, could easily be filled by the 7 million men who have left the labor market. According to Vance, these workers would return if the wages were fair. In response to Garcia-Navarro's concerns that deporting undocumented immigrants would cripple industries like construction and worsen the housing crisis, Vance shot back that the real issue is the presence of 25 million undocumented people, many of whom are competing for jobs and homes that should be available to Americans. He sarcastically reminded her that in the 1960s, when illegal immigration levels were far lower, Americans still built houses. His point was clear. The assumption that only undocumented labor can keep the housing industry afloat is deeply flawed. Vance argued that the 4.1% unemployment rate often cited as evidence of a strong economy doesn't tell the full story. It doesn't account for millions of Americans who have completely dropped out of the labor force, people who he believes could be reintegrated into blue-collar jobs like construction, if only wages were higher. Vance's theory is that illegal immigration drives down wages, making it harder for American workers to compete in industries that increasingly rely on underpaid, undocumented labor. This, he says, is one of the reasons the American middle class is shrinking. Social media exploded after the interview, with many praising Vance for his straightforward, no-nonsense approach. Supporters of Vance, including prominent MAGA figures, highlighted his ability to articulate an economic vision that prioritizes American workers. Some users on X, formerly Twitter, hailed the exchange, calling it a masterclass in dismantling liberal arguments. Others noted that Garcia-Navarro appeared unprepared for Vance's sharp rebuttals, particularly when he criticized her for assuming that undocumented labor is essential to the U.S. economy. Vance's comments also reignited a long-standing debate about immigration policy in the U.S. He reiterated his support for Donald Trump's proposal to deport all undocumented immigrants, framing it as a solution not only to the migrant crisis but also to the broader economic challenges facing the country. He suggested that removing undocumented workers would ease the housing shortage, arguing that their presence drives up demand for housing, which in turn increases competition for available homes. In Vance's view, fewer undocumented immigrants would mean more jobs and affordable housing for American citizens. He also took aim at the broader business community, accusing it of abandoning American workers in favor of cheap foreign labor. Why try to re-engage an American citizen in a good job if you can just import somebody from Central America who's willing to work under the table for poverty wages? Vance asked. He emphasized that the current system is, in his words, a disgrace and one of the major drivers of inequality in America today. But not everyone is convinced. Critics argue that deporting millions of undocumented workers would have devastating consequences for industries like construction, agriculture, and hospitality. where undocumented labor plays a significant role. They also contend that many Americans won't take these jobs even at higher wages, preferring instead to seek employment in other sectors. Nonetheless, Vance remains adamant that by removing the undocumented population and raising wages, many of these jobs could be filled by Americans who have been sidelined by current immigration policies. The interview has sparked a national conversation, and whether you agree with Vance's solution or not, there's no denying that he's brought the issue of labor, immigration, and economic inequality into sharp focus. With the 2024 election on the horizon, his stance on immigration could prove to be a key factor in the Trump-Vance campaign's appeal to voters, particularly those frustrated by stagnant wages and rising inequality. J.D. Vance's arguments have stirred up a lot of emotions and raised critical questions about the future of America's workforce. Is deporting millions of undocumented workers the solution to the labor and housing crises, or is it a step too far? As the 2024 election approaches, this issue is sure to stay at the forefront of political debate. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this video informative, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Fame Journey for more deep dives into the hottest political and celebrity news. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.